Okay, so you said you were surprised she left.
Yeah, I was surprised that she had given up so quickly on her husband, on the marriage, taking the kid, especially in a situation where you are going out on your own, in this little wagon, piling up all your stuff with no one to be there to protect you from all the craziness that is going on around you. And as soon as she had gone into town and saw that he was wanted and, being called a deserter, she just jumped ship. And then after being out there, which was at least because when she left, he was a little boy, so he was not more than 3. And she came back and he was like 9 or 10, so she was gone for a minute. And she just rolled back, with the I don't have anywhere to go. I didn't know what else to do. They took this, they took that. Like, well, hell yeah. You're in the middle of all this war and fighting going on. What the hell did you think was going to happen? And I thought it was interesting that I guess, she came back to what she knew in the hopes that he would take her, and knowing what kind of a man he was, I'm sure she knew prior to that he wouldn't let anything happen to the son for sure, and not her either. So I wasn't surprised that he took her back in. I appreciated um, his Google's part as welcoming her back, and at the same time letting her know, this is our home, but you are welcome. Just like we were talking about, on the way back. It's not, oh, well, you're back now and you're the wife and you're the one with the child, so let me step back and let you come back into your rightful space. It was nothing like that. It was, this is our home now, and, I know who you are, and I recognize the relationship between him and his son, and you're more than welcome to stay here. And even after, she got pregnant and had her own child with him, there was no issues. And I thought that was a good relationship to show.
Well,
And I liked the way she handled it.
now see, when I was talking about the men, and I said the MGTOW men, it's also the IBMOR men. Those are the brothers, the IBMOR and the MGTOW.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the whole thing. Uh, so when you have men nowadays who are saying, you know, that's one of the problems. All the games and the women's, like you say, she didn't stick by him. He came back. He didn't desert out of being a coward or being
No,
afraid.
no.
He left because, kind of like
To
when
bring
they
his
show,
dead nephew home.
well, yeah, okay, that's the honorable thing they want to show. But the reality is, if you're a guy out there and you're fighting in a war, even today, you have men who say, "I'm not going to fight in no damn campaign for a freaking country where my brothers and sisters get shot in the damn street and you can't get a fair trial out of it. Or if I do go and I come back, I can't even find decent employment to take care of myself. And if I do have a family, to take care of them. Or I can't get an adequate education. I gotta have so many rules. I have to hoops. I gotta jump through. And then yeah, okay, people can say you're whining and this and that, and no, people aren't. There's a lot of BS that's going on, and sometimes people get tired and it's like, I'm not doing this shit for you.
Right.
I'm not going to be your slave. I'm not going to be your puppet. I'm not going to go fight in a war where rich men's sons and daughters don't have to go and fight. And when they do, they get these cheesy assignments so that they can go and come back and have nice political careers or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Is that 100%? No, it's not. So no rich or wealthy vet uh, or for you're from a family like that, so you're a vet that's out there and it hears it, don't take offense to that. But you know as damn well as I do that that is a strategy of many of the children of the wealthy that do go into military service. So don't give me no bullshit about it. If you're honest about it, be honest about it. And you well, privilege, and all this other shit. Yeah, that's nice, okay. But eventually, that's all gonna come to an end. And then what are you gonna do? So, hey, you got a group of people out there now who feel like, you know what, you're right, it's going to come to an end, so I'm trying to hurry up and get mine before it's over. And if that's your strategy, more power to you. Then there's a group of people out here who's like, you know what, yeah, I want the end to come to all this BS too. But I'm not necessarily trying to get on that grab it while it's hot bandwagon.
Right.
I'm trying to put more love and peace in my heart in different ways, and you know, work my way through that. I mean, all this survivalist BS is going on.
Mhm.
You're either waiting for the zombies or waiting for the tidal wave or waiting for the volcano and the earthquakes. It's always some other, you know,
catastrophe happening.
it's just like, okay, or people in there, if we pray hard enough, it'll change the prophecy and then you don't have to go through it. It's just stop. What about living a good life and living a good life together? And that was one of the things the guy was promoting because he was really talking about uh, solidifying each other, distribution of wealth
Right.
as far as resources goes. He didn't really get too much into the whole money part.
Mhm.
But I found some things interesting about that. Uh, but when it came to the women, and I laughed a little bit when she showed up because it's kind of like I know all the MGTOW guys would have saw it and just busted out because it's like,
Right.
okay, you thought you could do better, you got tired of his this and that and that, and then you had to
Mhm.
tell, well, we had to walk all the way back because
Exactly.
they burned me out here, and when I went over to the other side and this and that, then they burnt my ass out too. So I'm a
Exactly.
single mom hanging out, and didn't have a kid. Then I heard you was here living with this other woman, and who knows? Maybe in her mind she thought and realistically that hey, if I come back and I get the kid, I don't have to fend for myself. I know this man is a man. He's gonna try to do the
Right.
stand
Of
up
course,
thing
that's exactly what
and
she
take
thought.
care of that. So hey,
That's exactly what
and
she thought.
especially since it's like she isn't gonna get no love nowhere else.
Mhm.
Okay, I mean, you had to look at that situation. But when she came out of the house, now what you have is a white woman with the child standing outside
Mhm.
coming back to her white husband. And now he's basically in a common law marriage
Right.
with this black woman. And she comes out and I had to laugh because again, it's all in your perception how you take this stuff. But when she came out, it was like, oh, it's a shack in the back, and we can fix that up for you. That's where
Uh
you staying.
huh.
And so, I took it, I took it there because it's kind of like
I love that part. I
in,
loved
in,
it.
in 2016,
Loved it.
I'm here, common law, I'm shacking up with you.
Right.
If I'm Mr. Bill Jones and I'm a white man,
Right.
and my white wife shows back up with
Mhm.
my son, he's like, well, Bill, we're back, and we had a hard time, and I made my way back here, and I know I just want him taken care of, and this and that, like, well, the kind of guy I am, this and
Right.
that, I'm gonna take care of you, but here's my black wife now that comes out. And it's like, oh, you're back. We got a place for you right in the back.
We sure do.
Like, wow, okay. And I thought that was a little bit of a dig and everything. Of course, it's a movie, so stuff isn't historically accurate in a movie, but it has to play out because it's Hollywood.
Mhm.
Um, but just the dynamics and some of those things.
But I like the fact that they showed her handling it with dignity and not getting all ghetto fabulous like bitch I don't know what you doing back here but you could take you and your kid and go somewhere else, you know how they could go all kind of wrong, but they didn't depict the black woman like that. They showed her politely standing her ground and letting her know, oh sure honey, come on back, you're welcome. You more than welcome. To that shack in the back, you more than welcome. And you and your son be nice and comfortable. But you ain't gonna be up in here in the big house with me and my husband because this is a new day. You left him high and dry. Didn't even think about what was gonna happen to him. You packed your little wagon and your son and left. Like with no kind of anything, no explanation, no nothing. Just left and took the child with them. So I did appreciate that depiction.
Yeah, I did. Um, so some interesting things, and I'm gonna bring these up here because this is to the core of what I feel the movie attempted to really touch. It did a really good job of showing, uh, okay, not necessarily historically accurate, but definitely touching on more so than other films of that period, what it may have been like and during the changes that came after the so-called end of slavery, the apprenticeships,
Mm-hmm.
which I believe the state of Texas now is replacing slavery in their history and textbooks for a curriculum and to calling it unpaid apprenticeship. I'm just saying, if that's not true, somebody, you know, but we'll look that up. But hey,
Wow.
but in the Smithsonian, where they document and record this stuff, and this it was a true event
Mm-hmm.
that happened. He did stand up against, the Confederates,
Mm-hmm.
being so-called, they called it being loyal to the Union, but
Right.
the man was like, making it clear that they really don't want us, and these folks don't want us. Nobody
Right.
cares about us, but we need to care about ourselves and each
Mm-hmm.
other if we're gonna be here.
Right.
And that was his take. Um, Funny enough, in Mississippi, they had more issues with him race mixing than they did with him going against the Confederacy,
Right.
which again people need to pay attention to. Because
That was
I just
interesting.
thought it was very interesting in that whole movie. Nobody said anything aside to the woman, to the black female character,
Mm-hmm.
about being with him, which
Right.
I was kind of like, okay. And very little to him, if you really paid attention, very little to him
Right.
about his choice of partner. But in reality, the people had a real problem with that.
Oh, most certainly.
Um,
On both sides.
well,
The black people had a problem with it, and the white people did too. You know that 100%.
well, the truth of it was that he wound up having more children with the white wife than he did with the black one.
Mm-hmm.
But they did live out their lives all together on that farm space.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, he was in what would they call it now, poly thing,
Yeah.
with the
How
I
cute
got
is
more than
that?
one wife and this and that. But again, it is what it is. We're gonna be who we are, and not gonna change that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Wow. I wonder if that was
Mississippi,
like the first poly relationship in 1832.
no, but Mississippi had that one drop rule.
Right. That's what the court thing was about, huh?
Right.
With that man,
Um,
his son.
he had 9 children with the white one, with the white wife Serena, and he had 5 with the black girl Rachel,
Okay.
black woman, the black wife.
They should have told that.
No, because then you get into people paying more attention to that than paying attention to the story, and it's not as romantic because they played him into more of the savior and this and that, and be in the manly role, and there's a lot of sisters in their scandal moments eating that up.
Mhm.
So that's the drawback of that.
Right.
You know, because the reality is, okay, it's not that many, so stop with it.
Mhm.
They don't want you like that, so stop with it. Yeah, you can find some, but for the time being, stop living in your fantasy. Get into a little bit more reality. Like, I can find a decent brother that's not gonna be getting high every day and punching me in my face, or trying to make babies that they're not gonna take care of. Because I start with that by loving and respecting myself, and I'm gonna draw that to me.
Right.
And the way I'm gonna draw it to me is I can have a conversation with brothers not based upon their material look like.
Mhm.
But that's a whole nother ballgame. Uh, Here's something that was written about that. Now, the last name was Knight.
Right.
Newt Knight caused a scandal that still reverberates by entering a common law marriage with the former slave Rachel and proudly claiming their mixed race children.
Mhm.
The Knight Negroes, as these children were known, were shunned by whites and blacks. Unable to find marriage partners in the community, they started marrying their white cousins with the father's encouragement. Because Newt's son, Matt, for instance, married one of Rachel's daughters by another man. And Newt's daughter, Molly, married one of Rachel's sons by another man. An interracial community began to form near the small town of Soso, where they wound up,
Right.
and continued to marry within itself. They keep to themselves. A lot of people found it very easy to forgive Mr. Knight for fighting against the Confederacy than mixing of the blood. Very interesting.
Wow. So that became the issue.
Of course. Because there's a deeper thing going on than people want to admit. And because they allow it to stay alive instead of looking at it for what it is. Now, he was looking at it from the freedom standpoint when he said, you know what? We out here working, enslaving on our farms, and they're coming here taking from us.
Mhm.
Taking all our stuff, not just, hey, everybody has to put in 10% from their farm. No. Okay, and the rich people staying rich, then they got us out here fighting for them so they can keep getting their money, but ain't nobody sharing that money with us,
Right.
ain't sharing that wealth with us. And you got some of the white guys in between who, as long as I can say I'm better than a black person, then that's good enough for me. I don't care if these other white men are, rich and this and that, like you had the fat one saying, oh, they're rich, so what? They're
Right.
rich, so what? He told him, no, don't you got a farm? He said, do you own any slaves? So why are you siding with them?
Mhm.
You have nothing to gain from that. Absolutely nothing.
Exactly.
But you the first one out your mouth want to call somebody a nigger. We just made him look stupid. Just like, what are you doing? And you have a lot of white men in that mentality. Because they want to be better than something, because they know they're not going to meet up to Chip and Brad and some of the other guys. Just my dad, is that, so I'm just a day trader and trade stocks, and we make money, so that But hey, you own a little dry cleaner, you're making good money, you got your little business, or you're working at your company for 10 years and this and that. Hey, guy, you're doing great.
Right.
And they really do believe that they are, because they got their house, they got their car, and they got their credit, and their wife can drive around, their kids can go to private school, and this and that, and they can pretend that they're part of the elite white class in America. But the reality is, they don't give a fuck about you.
That's the truth.
Okay? In fact, they laugh at them more than they do the black folks. Because it's like, well, we know if we don't hold them back, they will beat us. They've shown that in the sports, in the music, and all the arts and entertainment, and even in business they show it, but we keep fucking them over so much that it's so hard for them to just get beyond.
Right.
That's the reality. It's not some conspiracy. It's a reality. Those few black men and women, they tout out in front of everybody to say, look at their great business success and look at this and that. It's nothing. Okay? So you had a movie where a guy was putting people together to do that. But just this year, because you know the whole thing with Hillary,
Right.
right? Now, I know people wondering, if you're talking about this film, what are you doing talking about that? So this is how we're going to tie that in there. This man was showing people and talking to people about fighting for yourselves, being together and taking care of each other, because we really need to do that for ourselves. These people, these powerful elite people, don't care about us. And so we need to stop putting ourselves in a position to be their lackeys, to do the dirty work for them,
Right.
to look at each other as different and not respect each other as men on this planet, and helping each other produce, care for our families, and care for ourselves. Okay? So when you're talking about the middle class, and everybody talks about, oh, the middle class is vanished. But see, the elites, you know what they consider middle class?
What?
What I always say, $250,000 and below.
That's middle class.
That's what they want to call middle class. But the reality is, what is considered median income in the United States is about $53,600, something around there. Basically about $54,000, and that's really what middle class is in the United States.
Right.
And if you really look at that, that's really not a lot of money. Because
Where
if
the
we're going
hell
to talk
did
about middle class,
$250,000 come from?
oh, that's what the politicians say. Barack said it. Hillary said it. People, you know, you're making, you know, $250,000 or less. That's what they're defining as middle class.
Wow.
Mrs. Clinton and Barack Obama. Yet that definition is completely out of touch with the reality.
It most certainly is.
Guess how many people are those, let's say what they said, families that actually get $250,000 a year? That means you're clearing $250,000. It's $250,000 a year or more in the United States. Only the top 5% are basically what they call the top stratum, captures anyone making $206,568 or more. So not everyone in the so-called middle class is in that range. In fact, it's too large of a chunk. Those people in the top 5% who are being classified as middle class are pulling further away from the rest of us. So that means less than, because 250,000, the top 5%, the bottom of the top 5% aren't even at 250,000. They're just over 200,000 at 206,000. So the 250 is like, you know, out of 5% is maybe when you hit the 4 or 3 mark. Because the 2 and the 1%, you already know who that is and what's going on with them.
Right.
So that 5% making $206,000 or more, which is like, wow, that's you know what I'm saying? And so we got all these people, because if you really look at it, 50,000 is not a lot of money.
Right.
Let's go to New York and see what $50,000 is going to do for you. Let's go to Chicago, LA, Dallas, Houston, all the other big cities out there. It was some of them are missing. Up in Connecticut, Boston, okay, Seattle, San Francisco.
It's true.
And see what $50,000 is going to get you. DC. Let's go to DC. What $50,000 is going to get you? And they're saying that's the real, actual median income. So what this guy was talking about and doing in the movie was, I'm watching these people dying around me. I'm trying to do the best I can with it. I'm trying to be loyal to the cause with it. But you saw him and his friends already sitting around like, what are we doing this for? And the
Exactly.
one guy saying, "Oh, you're doing it for honor," and he's like, "Honor? What's honor in this? What's honorable about this BS?"
Watching people die.
So then after the nephew comes there, he sees that, and yeah, it affects you. He's a young guy, it's this and that. And on the way to taking him home, he just decides, you know what, I'm done with this. And I'm going to come back here and do what I got to do. And in between that, being the man he is, he's like, okay, people are being treated wrongly. And as a good neighbor, I got to look out for them, and I want them to look out for me.
Right.
That happens. They help him out. To hide out, he goes where the runaway slaves go to. So then he gets deep into seeing just what that's about and hearing the human side of their story. Because these black men out there surviving.
Yeah.
And then gets to see some other things in there. And then as more and more of the white men, after the loss at the Battle of Vicksburg, get dejected and see that their glory that they're looking for ain't coming.
Sure ain't.
So they start deserting. And they come to where he is. And you notice how they came there and see, and they trying to live it up. Building up all this stuff. They ain't trying to be mobile like like the brothers was out there. They building up permanent stuff. And I thought it was interesting. Again, they don't talk about that he didn't sleep and hang out with the white people. He kept going back to where the brothers were.
Yes, very true.
Okay? Which, number one, he probably felt safer there for various reasons. And number two, he knew that I'm not really a part of these guys. Yeah, they don't want to deal with this other BS, but they still looking for something to make them feel better than somebody else instead of having enough self-esteem and gumption in your own damn self.
Exactly.
To stand up and not let these other folks define the shit for you. And you saw that play out through all of it. So I just thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
The only other person who's really taken it there like that has been Michael Moore, which he points out in all his films, the inhumane and the bad treatment against black folks. I'm like Dick Gregory on it. Okay, all the black people that, they don't want to talk about the slave movies, and that's another slave movie, we don't need that, and this and that and that. They need to just shut up with it. Because they're not putting pressure on these black filmmakers that's making these dumbass movies about, the church, or we got to stand in line for another Tyler Perry movie because, we just want to live the Atlanta fantasy. Okay? Or another one of these dumb black movies about, I'm a thugged out cop and, we can make people entertain. I mean, they're making money. That's cool. If it's just about making money, hey, they're making money, that's fine. But if you want to talk about people who want to get a little more meat and substance to it, okay, they're not doing it.
I think the next one we have to see and talk about will be Birth of a Nation. I want to see how that transfers over.
That's the Nat Turner story. A lot of people are already talking about that, having issues with that. Of course, first thing they bring up is the brother because he got a white wife. A lot of the brothers who are working in Hollywood got white wives. I don't know why that's a shocker. Like black men in the NFL, NBA, what's the other one? Major NBA, Major League Baseball, hockey, almost any damn major sport you playing have somebody other than a black woman on their arm.
Right.
It's both the brothers and sisters' fault. But we ain't gonna do that right now because we're talking about the movie. What I will say threw me a little bit in the movie was that they really didn't show a lot more interaction. They showed his interaction. They show minimalist interaction, more like a tolerance for white men and the black men. Like when he told his friend, and they show some very good scenes in there when him and his white friend from the war were talking, and that supported him.
Yeah.
It came out,
Right.
and he said, "We got to get these guys to come to the Dan Friedman's meeting." And he said, "They are not gonna come."
Right.
He said, "Yeah, they think what you think is right, but they're not going to come." And that's the problem. The so-called men don't have enough balls to stand behind what they want. Yes, it's risky, but truly in life, there are a lot of things that are risky.
That's the truth.
And if you have enough men together and they got their support, they can do what they need to do. And no, you don't have to broadcast it. You can be very strategic in doing that. And more black men have to do that. Come together locally where you're at, where others are like mine, and strategically start doing things underneath the scenes. And no, that doesn't mean giving out no damn food baskets and other BS. I'm not talking about that kind of feel good bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm talking about stuff that can really take a negative and turn it into a positive.
Right.
The very first time I had experience with that, and I know our people have been doing that since we've had to since the first captivity, or being the first people to put things together in a positive light as a group on the planet. But the experience I had with that was where they couldn't get the brothers to stop drinking the malt liquor. So the rapper Ice Cube did a commercial for St. Ides, and the people got on him about it. But he said, I can't stop them from drinking that. But every time they drink it, we get money that's going into the coffers to do other stuff for the community, because that's the deal I was able to make.
Okay.
Now this was back in the early 90s. Very early 90s, late 80s, early 90s when that happened. And of course, it wasn't the first time black entertainers or a black businessman had did anything like that. It wasn't the last. But it was the first, as an adult, really looking at that from a place of awareness, that I understood that there's some stuff that we're dealing with that we're just going to have to turn that into a positive and stop playing this game of we're going to save all these black folks that are not choosing to make better choices in a few things in life. They want to make that choice, that's fine. But we should be benefiting or making it into something we benefit from than allowing it to continue to be something that's tearing down the community. I mean, period.
Right.
And a lot of folks will say, well, as soon as you try to do that, white people are going to change it. The power system is going to change it. So you can't make anything from it. It's like, well, you know what? Some of that is true. But again, if you're working strategically and underground, you don't have to worry with that. And you got to work together. There is no being by myself. I'm going to be a lone wolf, and I'm going to do it. And the women got to support that. Again, when Spike made the movie, basing it off of an old Greek play, I believe it was a Greek,
Yeah.
but and then there was examples of women in villages in Africa who did the same thing. But I say, and he kind of took it a few places in the film of women taking it to the spot and forcing the men to, you need to come to terms with some peace or doing some things. It's my babies out there dying. It's our children out there getting messed up. Okay? And the best you can do for me is say, well, it ain't our kid, or, we ain't got to buy into that, or maybe we can go live in the suburbs and then we don't have to deal with that. But that's not going to change the color of your skin, which means it's not going to change some of the things that you're still going to have to deal with. And it's definitely not going to change anything as far as a group of people. Again, if you're less than that 5%, so I used to say 250,000, now we're going to say 200 and If you don't
Six.
clear $206,000,
Right.
that's clear. Not I have it on credit. Not I'm gonna add this and that to it and I get up to that. If you don't clear $206,000 a year, you're not in that upper percentile. So you need to wake up. If you're close to it and you think, hey, I'm gonna be able to join the party and I'm gonna be accepted, then keep doing what you're doing. Good luck and more power to you. But if you know you ain't nowhere near close to that, then you need to be getting together with other folk and figuring it out
That's it.
and doing it together because it's not gonna help.
No, you
And
gotta
so
do
that
it
movie was
collectively.
showing that from a very divided space in America, showing the atrocities black people, especially in the South, were dealing with and had to deal with daily. They did give some of the stats there, talked about the things. It wasn't a film about particularly that in itself, but again, how you gonna make a movie dealing in the Civil War period and
And
not
not
talk
talk
about
about it.
any of that?
Exactly.
My biggest thing, later in the film, they showed it and it made sense. But earlier in the film, they weren't showing like a lot of black people,
Right.
just that handful, which you could argue and say, well, that's all that were around in the space where he went to. But we know for a fact there were tons of black people throughout the South, more so than white. So to be walking around and only see a whole bunch of white people was kind of like, what is that about? But it's Hollywood. They're going to do what they do. Overall, I think they did a nice job of showing some things. I think they could have did better with that whole buy-in into the court later on where the man was having to defend
His
being
interracial marriage.
right, them calling it an interracial marriage because by their Mississippi standards he was black, even though he looked white.
Right.
And then when he married somebody, he's breaking the law. So then again, like Dr. Welson always talks about, it comes down to the race mixing. It comes down to the miscegenation. If he technically had married a black woman, he'd have been fine.
Right.
But because he married a white woman and he's considered black, he broke their laws and was sentenced to 5 years in jail. Even though, yeah, on an appeal it was overturned, this and that. But bottom line is, that's how far it was taking it.
Sure was.
So as people, we need to really understand a few things instead of just passing it over. Because that just doesn't do justice to the things that have been done to all of us, in the name of keeping you separate to keep you under control.
And they still are being done.
Oh, absolutely. It's being done in ways, but now it's so slick. It's being done at the top, and before you can even be affected by it, it's already written out and laid out.